Good morning. Welcome to Ramblings with Joe. I'd like to talk about opposing views this morning. Got the left and the right, got the Jewish and the Christian, got the communist and the democracy. There's a lot of opposing views out there. There are so many that you just don't have time. I could spend the next 4 or 5 hours just listing opposing views. And I'd like to put forth the idea that has been talked about many, many times, that you can have opposing views and still both be right. There's a famous sketch or picture. It's been many iterations, but it's two people looking at the same number and they're arguing. One saying that it's 99 and the other saying that it's 66. Other numbers have been used. That's just the one that comes to mind. And they're both right because their perspectives are different. That doesn't mean that there's not truth. They're both being truthful, and they're both seeing the truth for what it is. One is seeing 99, and one is seeing 66. I guess if you go to the root of that particular example, the person who painted it on the ground, or wrote it on the ground, that person's intent really does establish whether the number is 99 or 66. That being said, if that person doesn't step forward and say, no, that's 99. I wrote that. That's a 99. That's my 99. My intent was to convey one short of 100, 99. If that person doesn't come forth and say that, then the truths from each person's perspective is correct. They're both observing the numbers from their point of view. And life can be very gray like that. As a matter of fact, I think that life is oftentimes more gray than black and white. I think oftentimes when we're looking at 99, we forget that we can change our perspective and see 66. Of course, the bigger picture in that example is these two people are arguing, but if they switch sides and look at the numbers on the ground from the opposite point of view, they'll see the other person's perspective easily. We don't know each other's stories. We don't understand how we got to where we're at. In my last episode, I talked about Facebook a little bit. When I talked about Facebook, I asked everybody to kind of go through your timeline and look and see, are you espousing unity or divisiveness? So I went through my own timeline. It's 50-50. And I need to work on that. Because what I was seeing from my point of view was everybody else being divisive, while I'm standing here being divisive. We need to see each other's perspective. We need to stop and try and move to the other side of that 99. Try and understand why the other person has the opinion, the religious belief, the idea that is in opposition to our own. I'm not saying that we need to embrace their idea. What I'm saying is we need to understand their idea. In science, scientists challenge each other's ideas, challenge each other's results. They will look at their colleagues' experiments and say, I don't like how you did this. I think it would be better done doing it this way. Or you messed up right here and we need to fix that. I think we need to apply that kind of philosophy to our own lives. I've been called a racist. I'm not one. Anybody who's called me a racist doesn't know my dating history, but I have been called a racist. Those people didn't know my perspective. If they knew my perspective, they would never be so ridiculous. They would never be so objectively wrong. I don't know their perspective. I don't know what led them to consider me in that light. So when this one person did go down that road with me and accuse me of that, I got very loud. I got very obstinate and I got very angry. Eventually, the discussion turned to, why are you considering me a racist? And eventually this person had to step back and realize she wasn't acting out of any true conviction, but she was being emotional because we had a political disagreement. She had to kind of backpedal, if you will, and decided, no, indeed, I wasn't a racist. I'm not. I don't care if you're white, pink, blue, yellow, orange, brown. I don't care. What I care about is if you're good and you treat other people nice. Once I realized her perspective after we calmed down, things were a little bit better. However, that harm had been done. That accusation and that awkwardness that it presented could not be undone. The dynamic of that relationship changed forever. Eventually it ended, but it definitely changed forever. I think that we do that to each other. I think I've done that to people. Not call them racist, but I have made assumptions without knowing their perspective. Without knowing someone's perspective, I can't possibly understand where they're coming from, why they feel the way they feel, why they have the views that they have. It is difficult to step out of your box. It's very difficult to step out of your box and into someone else's, because that really alters your reality. And once you see something from someone else's perspective, you can't unsee it. And you start to garner reason and understanding for how the other people feel and their views and how they got to that point in their life. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them. It doesn't mean that you are changing your political stance if it's politics, or your religious view if it's religion, or your moral view if it's morals. The point is that you understand how they got there. And when you can say in a conversation, I can see your point of view, I just disagree with your point of view, and you start asking each other why, at that point growth happens. And when both parties do it, true growth and true unity can be built. There's some very ugly things going on right now. We all know my opinion on Trump and his disastrous invasion of Iraq. It is, without a doubt, one of his biggest mistakes in office. Without a doubt. However, that's where we're at right now. So the question is, what is the perspective of the people of Iraq? What is it that they want from this situation that was created by the American president? What would the people of Iraq like? I'm not talking about the leaders of Iraq. Obviously, they've been tyrannical for the last few decades. This is not a matter of a point of view. This is just what has happened. What does the population of Iraq want? What is it that what is it that the population of Iran wants? What do they want? What is their perspective? And my guess is freedom and liberty. I saw some videos of Iran in the early days of before the Ayatollahs took over. I think it was the 60s and early 70s, and they were, you would have thought you were standing in a Western nation. And then you fast forward 5 years and they're being, they've got the boot of the Ayatollah on their throats and they're having to behave as they want them to. The true meaning of tyranny. So the question now is, what do the people of what do the people of Iran want? What do they want? What is it that they want from their perspective? Do they want a return to the tyranny of the Ayatollahs, or do they want freedom and liberty? And my guess is they want freedom and liberty. And I'm not sure, it's above my pay grade, but I'm not sure how to give them that. I'm not sure if America can have a hand in that. I think we have to finish the job. We went in there and we started something. Whether you appreciate what the president did, or you stand in my camp and you don't appreciate what the president did, that perspective is there. What does the population of Iran want the outcome of this situation to be? I'm seeing a lot of the left stating that this is an illegal war. Okay, that doesn't solve the problem. All the screaming and the protesting and gnashing of teeth is not going to solve the problem. What's going to solve the problem is legislative reform. Nobody on the left is talking about changing the War Powers Act. If you're serious, if you really want change, forget Trump and the Iran war right now. And I agree it's a war. Forget that. Change the legislation that allowed it to happen. Call your senator, and tell them I want this changed. That's just me. From my perspective, I grew up Catholic. I grew up going to Catholic Mass on the weekly, and I never was a good fit there. I've never been a good fit anywhere in life. But having grown up Catholic and then leaving the Catholic Church and exploring many other churches, I found out, for the most part, the congregants of those other churches, putting aside the vast majority of those people who go to those churches were born into that faith, but the vast majority of people in those churches, whether they converted or not, are good people, are trying their best to lead good lives. And from their perspective, they are following their faith as best they can. I don't think they're wrong. I really don't. I think that if you are, I don't know, pick a religion. Let's go with Baptist. If you're Baptist and you're following your Baptist faith to the best of your ability, and you're following the tenets of that faith, are you a bad person? Are you an evil person from the perspective of a different church? If the people in that different church cannot step into your perspective and see who the congregants of a church are, they're not trying. They're just arguing to convince you to come to their church. And vice versa. If the Baptists are looking over at the Jehovah's Witnesses and they're not taking into account their perspective and learning what these people are learning, and all they're doing is trying to convince them to come to their church, from either side, it looks horrible. But the moment you step out of your box and into their box and look around and say, hey, what's going on over here? I'm never going to convert to this church, but I want to see what you're doing. I want to know what's going on. You start to expand your horizon. You start to see the world for more of what it is. Let's go to the political arena. If you're a conservative and you step onto the liberal side of the aisle, and you take a minute and you look around and you try and say, why do these people follow this particular set of values, this particular set of political beliefs? And you go back just a little bit and you recognize they want to help people. I'm not talking about the leadership now. There are some bad eggs in the leadership. But if you step into the liberal side of the aisle and you look at, hey, John Smith, come here. Why do you believe this? Why is this? Why do you want to socialize all medicine? And when all the explaining and everything's done, and John Smith finally says to, this other person who's inquiring and says, I want to help as many people as possible. Well, the conservative has got to stop and think, yeah, that's the same thing I want. I want to help as many people as possible. But they're going at it from different directions. But understanding the directions that these people are coming from and why they're doing that, well, that's a different feeling. It's a different outlook on life. It's a different way of looking at your fellow man and saying to yourself, I don't agree with this person's political vision, but I do think that they have the best for people at heart. And when you can see that and you can start seeing other people for who they are and for what they want, then you get a better understanding of your opponent, whether it's in politics, religion, anything, philosophy, anything. You start to understand. I'm not saying that everybody's great. That's not what I'm saying. There are obviously some bad actors in the world. There are some bad people. I mean, the Ayatollahs in Iran are just they've been absolutely horrible. And they're leading from a position of power and religion, and they're using that religion to do bad things. And I'm not saying there's not bad religions. I'm sure there are. What I'm saying is that the congregants, the vast majority of people are coming from a good place. Squeaky wheel gets the oil. If there's a bad actor in any situation, those are the ones that stand out. I'm a truck driver, and when I go down the road, I see, I don't know, probably tens of thousands of people every day. They're represented by the cars that they're driving, but those are people. Those are cars being controlled by the people in the cars. Do I remember every car that was doing lawful acts, that was, obeying the speed limit or a little bit beyond, as we Americans tend to do, you know, 60 miles an hour, so we're all doing 65. Am I seeing those and remembering each one of those? Or am I remembering the guy that came up beside me, got 2 feet in front of me, and then shot over? That's the one I'm remembering. I'm remembering, I don't want to use the word jerks, but I'm remembering the people that, the bad situations created by individuals. That's what I'm remembering. And I get very upset because when they do that, it puts their life and my livelihood at risk. I have to remind myself daily. I have to remind myself at least once or twice a day. These people are not representative of the vast majority of people on the road. The vast majority of people on the road never have a problem. The vast majority of people on the road never have an issue. They obey the laws of the road. They tend to do what is courteous. How many times have you been driving and you've seen someone let someone out? Are you the person that says, "Why the hell are you letting them out? I'm in a hurry"? Or are you the person that goes, "Hey, that was nice of them"? I personally don't think that should happen a lot because the traffic engineers have designed these roads in a specific way. It took me a long time to learn this, like zipper merging. They designed the roads to allow zipper merging to happen. So I always try and let one person in at the merge point because that's how it's designed to happen. And if everybody did that, the motion at the merge points would be much easier. But if you're blocking the guy that's trying to get from the left to the right or from the right to the left, and you're just slowing everything down. It's the rules of the road. And if you can accept that there is more good on the road than bad, then your driving experience will be better. You can see from other people's perspective. It's a way to look at life. It's a way to kind of endure life's trials. Sometimes when you look at someone else's perspective, you have to walk away. You realize at that point, oh, I can't have this person in my life because their perspective is divisive and mean-spirited, and they have been misled. There are some people who are just out and out evil, but for the most part, I think people can be misled, and you have to walk away from those people when it is so bad. So the thing that comes to mind is the Charlie Kirk assassination. I lost some friends over that because they were so mean and so ugly that I just had to walk away. I had to leave that behind me. A man was killed. Whether you agreed with his political stances or not, a man was killed. And for you to rejoice in the death of someone, I couldn't have that in my life. I had to leave. I had to leave that relationship. It is not up to us to change every point of view. It is up to us to maintain what we believe is right. It is up to us to see things from other people's perspective. Back to the traffic analogy. I've made mistakes on the road. So have you. The object is to make as few mistakes as possible. And when we make a mistake, hopefully someone sees what's going on and takes appropriate action to keep that mistake from hurting anybody. When you see someone else making a mistake, cutting you off too soon, take the appropriate action. Don't ride their bumper. I have to back off. I have to. And for the most part now, my truck lets me know when someone is, cutting me off too close. An alarm will go off. And if I have cruise control set, it will actually back down. And if they're too close, the commercial vehicle I drive will actually hit the brakes. That analogy can apply to life. And that's what happened with the Charlie Kirk assassination. When these people started spouting off these hateful memes that they had been trained to echo, I had to hit the brakes. My alarms were going off. And I said, wait a minute, this person is celebrating another person's death. Some of it was subtle. Some of it was blatant. Either way, I had to pump the brakes. And I had to back off, and I had to leave those relationships. Perspective. I think those people were misled. I think mostly those people are good, but I think those people were misled into believing it was okay for that violent act to have happened. But it's not okay. Perspective is everything. Intent. is everything. I know the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and it can be, but when you look at someone and you say, hey, this is not appropriate, your intent is good, but your action is not. And if it's a bad enough action, from their perspective and from your perspective, when you see that action and they're not willing to change it, sometimes, no matter the perspective, you have to walk away. We've all had to do it. On the left, on the right, in any religious organization, we've all had to do it. We just have. This went on a little bit longer than I expected it to. I thought this was going to be a short podcast, but I'm kind of running things through my mind as I'm doing these podcasts. It is the middle of the week, and I'm kind of excited for the weekend. My back is finally starting to loosen up a little bit. And put some kind of topical analgesic is what I'm guessing she put on my back, and it seems to be loosening it up a little bit. Also, moving around helps a lot. I think at my age, moving around helps everything a lot. Also, moving around your perspective can help a lot. That's what I've been trying to do. That's what I'm concentrating on right now. What do the people of Iran want? What do they want? I think that's what we need to ask. That's what we need to ask ourselves. Perspective. I hope that you have a good perspective today. I hope that you can see other people for what's going on. I hope that you can see the people in traffic for who they are. Human beings who are capable of making mistakes and poor judgment, as we are. And when they or we make that, hopefully we can adjust for them so that nobody gets hurt. However, if their judgment is bad enough, pull over, let them go away. That's what you have to do sometimes. But I do hope that you have a great day today. I hope that you go out there and you look at someone else's perspective. I hope that you can see someone else's decisions and why they got there. And I hope you find peace, love, and dream. Until next time, lehi throat.